What's up, guys? So today I want to share with you the 1-year training plan that I used to get myself in the best shape of my life, to compete in Golden Gloves and win my division. And I did it starting from being completely out of shape. In my early 20s, I was a little bit caught up in the world of partying and drinking and staying out late. And it was starting to show. I had a bit of a beer gut, and I just was not living up to the standard that maybe I would like to think that I should. At the time, I had a small group. I was building my gym. It was still pretty new. And I would put on these events called Martial Arts in the Park, where I would invite another martial arts instructor from another school to bring their students out, and I would bring mine out. We'd meet at the park, and we would all train together. I would teach for an hour, then they would teach for an hour, and then we'd do a group barbecue afterwards. And it was always a lot of fun. We'd do it about once a month. One time I invited this guy out who was a boxing coach, and he was so jacked. Think like George St. Pierre. And I felt like a little kid standing next to this guy. Looking at him and seeing how serious he took his training and how in shape he was, I could sense this like vitality, this energy that he exuded, compared to me who, was always tired because of staying up late, and my energy was low and my self-esteem was not at its best. It lit a fire underneath me. I was beating myself up when I got home that I wasn't living up to the same standard that he was holding himself to. And as a martial arts instructor, I want my students to actually look up to me. I want to set the example for them. Having this real sort of inner reflection with myself, I really saw I needed to change things. And so I decided to draft up a 1-year plan. There are 2 mantras that really helped me at this time, and I want to share them with you because if you run into obstacles around motivation, I want you to keep these in mind as little mantras. And the first one is deserve what you want. I thought to myself, am I the type of guy who deserves what I want? Like, if you look at my sleep schedule and the way that I'm living my life and the example I'm setting for my students, do I really deserve to have people put their trust in me as their instructor? And it was like, not really. I don't deserve that. I'm not living my life as a person who deserves to have those things. That's mantra number 1. Mantra number 2 is a year from now, you'll be glad you started today. If I think about how far I need to go, how much work I need to put in to get into the shape I want to be, I'm just going to get frustrated because it's going to take longer. But would I be willing to trade a year of hard work to then live in the body and have the things that I want for the rest of my life? And I'm like, yeah, I would make that trade. And so that was the mindset I took. And that really helped me. The next thing that helped me set up this plan was I got a hold of a book. It's called The Science of Martial Arts Training. And this book is phenomenal. He introduces you to this idea called periodization. And it's this way of structuring your workouts so that instead of just showing up and doing the same workout each day or each week, instead you set up kind of this big picture where the end goal is the competition and you have little micro goals leading up to it. And that's what I based my training program on that I'm going to share with you. So let's start with the big picture. The training is broken into periods where we're going to put a little bit more focus on specific areas. When it comes to martial arts, if you think of like this pyramid, then at the base of the pyramid is your conditioning. So all of your skills, all of your fighting ability needs to sit on top of a base of conditioning. And then on top of that, you have the techniques, the skill sets. And then on top of that sits the fight IQ, or the tactics and the strategies that you use. So if you divide that out over the course of a year, then you can spend the first 4 months really focusing on building up your conditioning. And then the second 4 months really focusing on the skill building. Now you'd still keep the conditioning on the back burner, but now we start putting the main focus on skill building. And then the third section, or the next 4 months, is where we really focus on getting into the sparring and developing drills that help you develop that fight IQ. And again, you're still going to be working your skills, your techniques, and you're still going to be working your conditioning. But this is just which one takes up the center stage, so to speak. So now let's look at the conditioning side. And we're going to divide that into 4 sections, okay? So the first section, which will be about 3 months, we're going to focus on just general fitness. Just getting your body in some basic level of conditioning, more the aerobic with a little bit of anaerobic, and we just want to prevent injuries, make sure that our muscles aren't weak to where we're going to injure ourselves. And also we do want to maybe start to get some of that fat off, start to burn some calories. So that's going to be our general focus. And then the second period is more muscle development. So now we're going to get into some strength training. Now, the third period is power development, and we're going to stack the weights a bit heavier so that we're really having to generate power. So the repetitions are lower, we do more sets, and we take more rest in between. And this is all stuff that you can just kind of look up and learn about as you get into it. And then the fourth section is going to be about speed development. So in other words, it's one thing to be able to generate power with your muscles. It's another thing to be able to do that quickly. And when you're doing explosive movements, you need to be able to contract the muscles fast. And that's going to have to do with training your neuromuscular system. So we all know people that can bench a lot of weight, but can't throw a hard punch because their neuromuscular system isn't trained to be able to call on that muscle quickly. And so we're going to do more like plyometric and power-based drills, the agility ladder, for instance. Or you think of like box jumps. So we're training our muscles to be able to fire quickly. Okay, so now that we have the general template, now we get down into what are sometimes referred to as the microcycles. Now we're getting into the individual weeks of training. And the way I set it up for my own workouts is I would train hard for 4 weeks, and then I would take 2 weeks off. Now, the training hard for 4 weeks, I would train 5 days a week. I recommend don't go there unless you're like really on fire. I would say commit to 3 times a week. That's a good number. 3 times a week for 4 weeks. So that's 12 training sessions. Then give yourself 2 weeks off. Now, that 2 weeks off, I didn't just do nothing. I would still work out. For me, since I was training 5 days a week, I would work out 2 days a week. And then on Sundays, I would go on just a really long run around Town Lake here in Austin. And what I would recommend to you is do something light, do something easy, or do 1 training session that week. Another way you can break this down, and I'm going to tell you about it at the end of this, is I actually have a program we call our 21-day challenge, where you train for 3 weeks, and then I recommend take a week off and then run it again. So that might be another option. Do 3 weeks on, 1 week off. So now let's talk about what my workouts look like. Now for me, what I would do when I first started, so when I was in the conditioning phase, so that first 3 months, is I would warm up with a 15-minute jog. So I would just put on my headphones, jog around. I had a little trail that I would run around, and then I would stop at the park where I had parked my car, and I would pull out. I had some kettlebells. I love kettlebell workouts, and I would just do a 30-minute HIIT style workout. HIIT is HIIT, and that is probably the best style of working out in order to prepare for martial arts training. It combines cardio with anaerobic, which is exactly what you get in martial arts. And I think kettlebells are some of the best strength training tools that carry over into martial arts training. They train your body how to, rather than isolate muscle groups, how to coordinate muscle groups, which is exactly what you do when you punch and when you kick. So I recommend kettlebells, medicine balls, that sort of thing. And for your workouts, you can just find a million different exercises online. Now, as I shifted into the second bigger phase, which is the technique development phase, that's when I joined a boxing gym. I had just come out of the conditioning phase, the 3 months of conditioning, and had started the next phase of strength training. So I had gotten a few weeks of lifting weights, and now I was transitioning to go into a boxing gym and working my technique. And I hired a coach to work with me privately, as well as hitting the bags, getting a routine going there. Then after doing that for 4 months, now I was ready to transition more into the sparring and the fight IQ development and really developing my tactics and my strategy and my fighting style. So I started to put more emphasis on making sure I was getting those reps in, lots of sparring. And I was also at this point starting to transition into the more speed-based training by doing plyometric drills and agility ladder speed drills, which you can go online and find a billion of those. So that was the transition, and I ended up getting into amazing shape. I'm actually going to link somewhere up here, one of these sides, give you access to watch my first Golden Gloves fight. Not only did I get into great shape, but this was a lot of fun. It wasn't a long, boring year of working out because things were constantly changing. I would change up how I was training martial arts. Again, going from conditioning to technique to sparring, I would change up my conditioning from doing more at the park HIIT style workouts to then going to the gym and lifting weights to then doing more agility ladder and speed work. Now, I found this process of periodizing my workouts so motivating that we actually created challenges for our gym based on the same principle. Our most popular has been our 21-day challenge, what I call our Fit Warrior Challenge. How would you like to do the 21-day Fit Warrior Challenge together as a group? I'm thinking it's the beginning of the year. It would be a ton of fun to actually set something up where we do it together. For the workout side of things, you could do whatever you want, but I would also like to take this time to actually teach Jeet Kune from the ground up. So for complete beginners. Hopefully you have a heavy bag, but if you don't, that's okay. It's going to be for beginners, so it's not going to be that intense of a workout. So if you want to do something else for your workout, totally cool with me. I'll put the date probably on the screen right now so you can see what date I'd like to kick it off. And the plan would be that I would just go live here on YouTube 3 times a week for 3 weeks, and we'll train together for 30 minutes. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. I'll also create something so you can sign up, so I can email you all the info and we can make this happen. Again, this will be completely free. Thanks. Bye.